We will go ahead and call the September 11th, 2023 meeting to order. At this time, would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I will turn the floor over to our Mayor, Larry Hushauer, for our presentations portion of the meeting.
Test, test. It works. We're going to let you sit there in suspense for a minute. So, Leslie, could you please come up here? We'll start with Leslie. We're making you number one tonight. Leslie served on the Planning Commission for how many years? It was over a decade. So, greatly appreciated. I've known Leslie forever, it seems like, all the way back to 2013 when we started working on Rails to Trails. Leslie was out there. She was she was in the top 5 who came out and just started working away with your son, Jacob. Yep, Jacob was out there too. I ran against Leslie for town council. That was exciting. So anyway, it's when you run against each other, you build a kinship, I would say.
But you didn't mention that Jay Weiss and I came to the Parks and Rec.
You did.
And talked about the Rails to Trails.
You did.
Before
Yep.
you were chair.
So even before I was chairman, they were talking about Rails to Trails. But with all of her time on the Planning Commission, we wanted to present her with this certificate in recognition of your devoted, hardworking, and selfless service as a Planning Commission member, your working knowledge of the town issues, and your great input to help resolve them has been greatly appreciated. It is volunteers like you that make Mount Airy what it is today. So thank you, Leslie. We can give her a hand now. So, and we're gonna give her a little gift card here. There was inflation, so it's a higher gift card than normal. So, but hopefully you like coffee. If you don't, I'm sure they have other things. Okay, and would you like to say a few words?
It was a really good experience overall. Learned a lot, met a lot of great people, and yeah, gonna miss it just a little bit. It's a lot of work. If you do it well, it's a lot of work. So thank you, appreciate it very much.
Thank you, Leslie. Thank you. All right. So we have 2 proclamations here for 2 of our officers, one of which is out there on a call right now. But Officer Gebhardt is here, and both proclamations read pretty much the same. So I'm going to read Officer Gebhardt's for some things that he's done over the last couple of months that were monumental and certainly worthy of noting. I'd ask you to come on up, and if your family would like to join you, they can. They can take pictures, whatever makes you comfortable. Okay? And first question is, how long have you been awake for? Today?
About 3, 4 o'clock.
3 or 4. Okay, so he's doing good because Gebhardt's been known to stay up for like 3 days in a row. I don't know how he does it. I couldn't do it. So, all right, I'm going to read this citation. On August 4th, 2023, at approximately 1 a.m., Patrol Officer Gregory Gebhardt and Senior Officer Christian Medeiros were conducting a traffic investigation on northbound Maryland 27 at Ridge Avenue. During this roadside traffic investigation, Officer Gebhardt requested a canine scan. Deputy Shriver and K-9 Odin of the Frederick County Sheriff's Office responded to that location. K-9 Odin gave a positive alert leading to a probable cause search. As a result of the vehicle search, a loaded Taurus 9mm handgun was recovered, as well as approximately 57 grams of cocaine, 23 grams of fentanyl, heroin, and various drug paraphernalia items. The investigation conducted by Officer Gebhardt and Senior Officer Medeiros led to the arrest of 2 individuals. Together, their professionalism and dedication to the town of Mount Airy led to the recovery of a handgun and a large narcotics seizure. The citizens of Mount Airy wish to extend their sincerest appreciation for Officer Gebhardt's service to our community, and in that regard, the town's elected officials have created this proclamation for an outstanding officer and a job well done. If the council would like to come up, and if you could just briefly introduce your wife to everybody and your family.
So this is my beautiful wife, Amanda. Her and I got married last November, and she's put up with me and all the overtime for this long. And that's her older sister, Kristen.
All right, we'll do a picture. We'll let you hold that. We'll get Len in here. Len's pretty good at being a helper and holding certificates. So get together. Good. All right. Got it? Oh. Lieutenant, you do a good job with these guys, so thank you so much, Lieutenant. The other citation is for Officer Medeiros. Like I said, he's on a call. Reads the same way. They work together. They're a great team. We got a great group of officers right now, and I can't say enough about them. What I did forget to do was give you a gift card to the Mount Airy Inn. For that should buy both of you dinner and maybe a kid or a sister. We have a card for Officer Medeiros. Can I give it to you, Lieutenant? And I'm going to give you a certificate as well. All right?
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next up on the agenda will be our public comment section. How many people do we have that wish to speak? Please keep your hands up for me. All right, we got about 6 people. 4 minutes or so? Does that work for everybody? Okay. Anyone that wants to go first, please feel free to come to the podium.
Good evening. I'm Heather Wallace, a town resident, and I'm also a Planning Commission alternate, but I am here to speak as a private citizen tonight to respond to comments that were made about me during the last town council meeting. So the first point I want to make is that this town has pleaded for citizen participation, and now you're getting it. Citizens are taking the time to research what elected officials have been doing since our newspaper disbanded. Citizens are smart enough to realize when something doesn't pass the sniff test. They're pushing for good governance and transparency in town. They're making sure their neighbors are aware of what's happening. And you should be thanking every one of these active citizens because good planning and governance requires active citizen participation and collaboration. But instead of being appreciative, some of you seem appalled, disdainful, and even fearful. And then you foolishly give in to your fears and start doing things that are detrimental to the town. Things like showing your own biases by looking at almost every town council or planning commission agenda topic through the lens of one development. Things like suggesting that a volunteer on the planning commission forego their right to free speech and freedom to associate. And things like having a double standard for citizens who are appointed to the planning commission or board of appeals. You see, I watch all of these meetings, and not one time in recent history have I heard anyone question a volunteer's ability to abide by their oath until, Active citizens were appointed to the Board of Appeals and the Planning Commission. Now, without naming names, I think we all know there are real estate agents that have been appointed to the board and the Planning Commission. I have nothing against real estate agents in general, nor any of the ones who are currently volunteering, and this is not personal at all. But for the sake of argument, let's talk about them. Did you know that the National Association of Realtors actively encourages members to participate in local government boards and commissions to ensure their values are reflected in public policy? Did you know they pride themselves on securing appointments on city task forces dealing with planning and zoning, among other things, so they can advocate for realtor issues and ensure they protect their business and the industry in general? And I can send you this article if you're interested. A NAR member is quoted as saying that if realtors don't get involved in the political process, their businesses and livelihoods could be at stake. At one point, the NAR even launched a program to train its members in how to run for office. And yet, no one batted an eye when real estate agents were appointed to the Planning Commission and the Board of Appeals in town. To use the word of the year, that doesn't quite seem fair. Now, I would be remiss if I did not also use this time to address the fake news that was brought up at last month's Planning Commission meeting. First, it goes without saying, I have no conflict of interest with regard to any proposed development, and if you perceive that I do, I would be interested to know what you have made up. Plenty of citizens, including commission members, council members, etc., have made public comments as private citizens, and I am no different. Secondly, I find it disturbing that an applicant for a development is conducting research on the personal lives of town volunteers who were appointed by the mayor and confirmed by a majority of the town council. I wonder if the same research was conducted on every planning commissioner, and to what end. Lastly, I have to comment about Citizens Against Mount Airy Overdevelopment. It's called CAMO. It's not CAD, Citizens Against Development. It's not CAB, Citizens Against Beck. It's so funny how confirmation bias works, though. Anyway, I would just ask that you always keep in mind what that acronym stands for. It's not a coincidence that the first word is citizens. When you're talking about CAMO, you're talking about the citizens you represent, citizens who support the town's businesses, and citizens who love this town. CAMO is not some big corporation or organization, as some would like to lead you to believe. They're your neighbors. So the talk about CAMO position statements creating bias is humorous. Have you read them? Do you know what the last position statement about Beck said? It said that for the sake of fairness to the community, the town should hold a charrette with a new developer. Sorry.
Heather, I don't want to interrupt you.
I'm almost done.
Sure.
I don't think that's controversial. And I'm going to close with this. If you are concerned by citizens seeking greater transparency and sound decision-making from their town government, you are probably not suited to represent them.
Yes, sir. 4 minutes, please.
It won't take that long, I assure you. So I'm her husband, Mike Wallace, and my comments are directed at you, Mr. Demoter. You are one of the most unprofessional people I've met, and not even met. It's the first time I've met you, right? You couldn't be more unprofessional the way that you treat people. You create a hostile environment for people to even want to volunteer for this town. And I'm here to tell you, it's going to end. That's not a threat, that's a promise. Okay? I will do everything I can to go get the 1,326 votes it takes to remove your ass from this position.
Let's just stay respectful. That's all. Let's stay respectful.
Well, you be respectful to the town citizens. You are not in any way, shape, or form. We finally have a group of people that are trying to stand up for what's right in this town, and you're doing everything you can to squash them or call their integrity into question. I question your integrity. You make comments publicly about the integrity of these guys when there are developers in the room who are absolutely trying to find every reason to call into question the doubt of this town and the people that are making the decisions. Are you being paid? Can we trust your decisions? Can we trust where you're coming from? We don't know, and none of us will never know. But I'm telling you, and I'm telling everyone on this board, it is not okay for you to be a bully. It is not okay for you to think that you can talk and represent the citizens in any way, shape, or form that you please without repercussions. It is not okay. That's the bottom line. And if anybody has any questions or would like to chat with me, I'm happy to chat. I don't care. I've got nothing to hide. But you owe my wife and you owe this town an apology for your lack of professionalism. And if I were the employer of this town, you would have lost your job a long time ago.
Hello again. I'm going to start with a speech that was prepared by somebody who couldn't be here tonight. His name is Andy Hunt. He's working the Orioles game tonight. Lucky guy. But he wanted me to read this, and then I have my own comments as well. So he states, the town of Mount Airy is at a critical point in history. Development has been on a fast track, especially with the Beck and Green Tree properties. We could spend time investigating how we got to this point with the previous town council leading the way, and Citizens Against Mount Airy Overdevelopment has tried to shine a light on the question of how we got here. But for now, I would like everyone to start asking yourself why. Why is a multi-million-dollar development corporation conducting opposition research on citizens involved with Camo? At the last Planning Commission meeting, it became clear staff from Pleasance Development have been combing through the social media accounts of individual residents and the Camo Facebook group to try and discredit those who have actively criticized the Beck development. Why? Is it because they are threatened by an organized group of citizens who do not support their plans and are raising awareness in the community? Or is there another reason? Why do Pleasance Development and certain members of the Town Council and Planning Commission feel the need to further discredit citizens who are active, yet live outside the town limits, as if the impact of development of the Beck property is limited to the town boundaries? Why? Is it because they know if more everyday citizens in the 21771 zip code become involved, this project would not have the support of the community? Or is there another reason? Why is a multi-million-dollar developer requesting that certain citizens recuse themselves from voting on anything related to the Beck property by making unfounded conflict of interest allegations due to their involvement or support of Camo? Why? Is it because Pleasance Development and Vanmar Engineering and Design Collective are so used to getting their own way with their unquestioned expertise that they cannot tolerate anyone who does not simply acquiesce to them and their plans? Is it because Pleasance and Vanmar cannot acknowledge their own conflicts of interest? Or is there another reason? Why is the involvement and activism of community members such a threat to Pleasance Development and Vanmar and Design Collective? Why? Is it because their egos and profit motivation cannot tolerate anyone who questions their authority, who questions the spin they put on so-called facts, which are not independently verified, and who does not take their sales tactics hook, line, and sinker? Or is there another reason? Why does Pleasance Development and Vanmar Engineering hold such sway with certain members of the town council, and why have they historically been allowed to speak and present so-called facts to the town council and planning commission with no time limits and no opportunity for rebuttal, while community members have been limited to 3 minutes of time? Why? Is it because up until this point the town council and planning commission were more beholden to the so-called facts spun by this multi-million-dollar developer than the critical questions and will of the everyday citizens? Or is there another reason? Why is Pleasance Development engaged in an all-out public relations campaign rebranding the Beck property to Mount Airy Crossing and developing a snazzy webpage as if this entire project already has the green light and is fully supported by the community? Why? Is it because they're relying on marketing techniques to sell this project to those who don't ask critical questions? Is it because they think they can just keep moving forward and the citizens, planning commission, and town council will just approve their plan and no further questions? Or is there another reason? There are many more critical questions that should be asked of Pleasance Development regarding their motives and techniques as businesses with a profit motivation. On behalf of all the citizens in this area, I encourage members of the town council to turn your criticisms toward them and away from those who live and work in this community and have the courage to be active and speak up. Why should you do this? Because government is by the people and for the people, not by businesses and for businesses. You are elected to represent the will of the people, not the will of developers.
That was for Andy, correct?
That was for Andy. This is for me. Might need a drink of water at this rate. Okay. Councilmember DeMotor, we have seen eye to eye on some things, such as the PFAS water situation. Not so much on other things. But the comments made at the August council meeting regarding the commission appointment of Heather Wallace were egregious and out of line. Heather's expertise in town code and zoning, her professionalism, and her integrity were more than enough reasons to vote her in as a qualified member of the Planning Commission. Her associations with CAMO, which, by the way, is a citizens advocacy group of well over 1,500 members of Mount Airy residents and 21771 zip code, that she does not violate any ethics laws, nor does it inhibit her ability to make justified decisions on what's best for our town and the planning thereof. In fact, by demanding her resignation from CAMO, you have violated her freedoms under the United States Constitution. The Supreme Court decided that freedom of association is part of our rights to freedom of speech via the U.S. Constitution. In 1958, the court considered it, and I quote, beyond debate that freedom to engage in association for the advancement of beliefs and ideas is an inseparable aspect of civil liberties, such as freedom of speech, end quote. We are proud to have had Heather's knowledge and input as a town citizen. She had and continues to have every right in her own opinions on development and the future of our town. She should not have to step away from CAMO to serve as a volunteer. There is no violation of the Mount Airy Ethics Chapter 13 in Town Code, nor through the Maryland Department of Planning and Maryland Land Use Article Division 1, Title 2, which governs the Planning Commission. I would ask that you apologize to Heather Wallace, council member, as you have crossed the line into violating her First Amendment rights of freedom of association and questioned her integrity. I applaud the council president and Mayor Hushauer for seeing that fact immediately and voting the council and the voting council for nominating her based on her merits. Furthermore, CAMO is not against all development, nor even MXD or the Beck property becoming developed. CAMO is advocating through citizen involvement for smarter growth decisions by our elected officials. Our issue with the Beck property is not because we are against its development. We're against the process by which it was rezoned outside of the master plan during the chaos of a global pandemic in 2020. Also, Ordinance 2021-16, which we already spoke about tonight. And Sean already cleared up that part of my speech, so I won't repeat it. Mr. Clark Wagner always brings up the fairness of the process. Was having the Kaz brothers help develop and word the MXD zoning for our town fair? The developer of the Beck property helped write the very zoning laws that he will benefit from. That's fair? Mr. Wagner brought up lobbying at the August Planning Commission meeting and made the inference that CAMO is lobbying town officials. That's an insult to me and an insult to you. Saying that we are anti-growth. Is this what we call constituents actually voicing their opinions collectively? Citizens actually standing up for their wants, needs, and quality of life? Lobbying? Really? How about the fact that Pleasance paid for the charrette that the Planning Commission, according to town code, should be orchestrating? How much of Pleasance money is involved in this process? Or the Kaz brothers before them? That's called lobbying. CAMO and its founders and leaders have never benefited from nor spent money on town affairs. We are simply residents that demand to be heard. After watching the previous council sell out our town to connect Center Street. In conclusion, I ask this council to please, I ask Councilmember DeMotor to please do more research at keepmountairysmall.com and understand that we are not anti-development. The majority of these residents in this town never asked for high-density development. Thank you.
I'll put it down to my level.
Hi, Kim.
So everybody can hear me.
4 minutes, please.
Hi, Kim Bynack. I am here as a citizen of Mount Airy, and I live within the town. After the personal attack of my character at the last Planning Commission meeting, I submit to you that I am a national training manager for a prestigious management company with 27 years experience. I take an oath at the outset of abiding by federal, state, and local fair housing laws. I am also required by law to successfully complete an annual recertification. I am currently training over 600 employees at my company. As a citizen of the United States, and a Constitution affords me the right to association with whomever and whatever lawful group I choose, as well as the right of freedom of speech. Both developer and council member sought to silence me and other commissioners and elected commission members or council members. Contrary to certain council members and the developer, I am pro-development. As long as all standards are met and clearly benefit the town, overdevelopment of this town, insufficient infrastructure is not what I can support here. While as a candidate and now a sitting council member said, this is an important time to reflect on the town that we have and what makes it special. I believe that moving forward, we need to embrace what makes us unique as a town and build upon that rather than trying to become like other towns that surround us. What an odd thing to say, that this is this was then a candidate which says that. There's something that's oh my gosh, I cannot say that word, about sitting council member who says that and listens to hours of well-researched plans, strategies to save an iconic landmark in Mount Airy. And then when all but a few people are here left, makes a motion to tear down or demolish this historic building. This individual also created an ordinance to remove two of the primary responsibilities of the landslide elected mayor, namely in financial and appointee categories. This then candidate also said during their election, I want to now be your voice and see that it is your views and your concerns are act upon. What an oxymoron. Thank you.
Greetings, Kevin Mitchell, town Mount Airy resident for the last 29 years. My topic is a little lighter, but maybe just as contentious. Speaking of the west end of Sunset Avenue, which is town property and deemed a public access area, as I'm told, and its connectivity to the rails to trails, west linking Hill Street to Village Gate and Rambling Sunset Circle. So about a month ago, I contacted the town office staff to inquire about the rails to trails opening and specifically why Sunset Avenue's access was different and left unfinished. So the town informed me at that time that Sunset Avenue was to be fenced off and there would be no public access to the trail. I found this disappointing and baffling. My wife and I further don't recall receiving any updates from the town about this change. And in speaking with more than 20 individuals over the course of the last few weeks residing on Sunset Avenue and Cedarbrook Court, which adjoins Sunset. I found there were only 3 residents having any knowledge of a plan to fence off the access of those I spoke to. There could be more. An overwhelming majority were patiently waiting in anticipation for everything about the trail to open, including access via Sunset Avenue. And none of them had any knowledge of a fence. Nobody wants impacts, increased vehicle traffic, or parking issues. We do desire, however, an improved footpath, sidewalk, but not a road extension, and believe there are numerous options the town has and can consider and should include the larger pool of informed residents now that they are informed. Mount Airy's master plan, even before 2013 and earlier, includes goals, objectives, and visions that you've heard described already for quality of life, improved walkability, town connectivity. Mount Airy's approved initiatives include further expansion of pathways to connect neighborhoods and encourage pedestrian, bicycling as the preferred travel method for residents to reach the downtown area. These amenities also come with an improvement to real estate. When you go to sell your home, it's nice to be co-located to a green space, an open space, a nature trail. And that's right out of Frederick County's master plan and their studies. I'm here tonight to respectfully ask the mayor to reconsider this decision and instead formulate a new plan allowing open access, walkability for pedestrian bicycle access to and from the trail via Sunset Avenue, in keeping with the original plan. Mr. Mayor, please keep Sunset Avenue with the original priorities and plan that promotes this access. The improved mobility in our town can only attract younger families, allowing this town to thrive. Please accept this signed petition of more than 70 residents that expressed their desire to have Sunset Avenue connect with the rails to trails. Unfortunately, those people cannot physically be here tonight to share their position. However, this petition was not a door-to-door campaign by any means. It was basically myself and others going around talking to people already using Sunset Avenue to connect to the rails to trails, or just riding my bike down the rails to trails and stopping people and ask what have they heard. So I'd like to submit what I've already given to the town staff as an email. This petition includes further signatures beyond that. Thank you. Accept that?
How are you, sir?
Excuse me. My name is Andre Whitebrod, and I am a resident of Mount Airy, and I actually live on the same street, right down here, Sunset. I'm 3 houses up from the entrance. I'm here as asking, I am one of the people who signed that petition. I have 2 children that grew up here. I've lived here for 16 plus years. The biggest concern we've always had is getting from one point to another point in this town so that we can get to a green space, such as right down here, the park, Watkins Mill Park, and we usually have to walk through Main Street and all these back roads to get to those places. And our biggest concern, especially Hill Street, is whenever there's a bypass in terms of where event downtown, increased traffic, we almost always get hit when we're going there. Not from people in our town, but people from outside of our town coming to visit. Having the rails to trails, and by the way, great improvement. We used to walk on it when it was the railroad. Not the best way to walk, but it got us down to the places we needed to get in downtown without having to go and actually be at risk of being hit by a car. I just want to point out that the fact that I knew nothing about this wall that was going to be going up. I did not want a wall to go up there. Actually, I thought they were going to finish it up and actually have a nice path getting in there for both bikes and people who are walking. It would be a great improvement for just our local area, as well as I've met more people walking on the rails to trails now when I walk the dog, with me and my wife are walking about, and I feel it brings a better community. We get to know more of our neighbors. Also, on top of that, it's a nice path to get to Twin Ridge. It's a nice path to get anywhere in town. My kids, now that they're coming back from college, we walk downtown and we participate in things that are in the nightlife in downtown now, because we now actually have a nightlife in downtown, and it's slowly growing. So I would petition, along with the other people on there, that you do not put up the wall. You follow through with the original plan. You put access there. And that would improve not just my life, but several of my neighbors in the area. Without that access, the other issue I have is I've lived here over 16 years. That road has never been paved, let alone even an idea of coming up with a sidewalk coming up to the main street. So I think that's a much better, cheaper way to get downtown and a much more enjoyable. I would even start biking, because then right now I walk and walk the dog all the time. It's a great path. I enjoy the fact that it's finally almost done. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else that wishes to speak in the public comment? Oh, hang on, we got one more.
Wow,
How are
it's
you?
short. Okay. Hello. Right, gonna go ahead and say it. It's not gonna be some super long or anything. It's just pretty simple and straightforward. Has the real solution to this problem is just listen to the public, really. Has anyone up here or come up here tonight and actually supported or not supported the 2023-30 plan? I don't think so. So it's pretty simple what the answer should probably be. And that's just to make sure that you make the people that are actually living in Mount Airy happy with what you're going to put in our town. Thank you.
Hold on, real quick, ma'am, I'm sorry. Ma'am, can you state your name, please, in the microphone for the record? I'm sorry.
Ariella Graybiel.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else who wishes to speak in the public comments portion of our agenda? All right, hearing none, we will move on. All right, so we're going to move on to the approval of council meeting minutes.
Council President,
Yes, sir.
if I may, the next item on the agenda is speakers,
Do we have any?
and I would like 4 minutes, just as the public had, to speak, because I don't think it's fair that at a council meeting, people can say whatever they want to say, however factual or not they may be, and criticize me as a council member and a citizen in a public forum. I believe I have a right as a citizen and serving council member to address those criticisms at the meeting in which they are levied. If there is some other means to do so at a council meeting, for me to do so, then I'm all ears. I'm simply asking for 4 minutes to provide comment, just as the citizens have been allowed, because I am also a citizen. So this would be the appropriate time.
Yeah, I'm reluctant to do that. Public comment for me is a time for us to listen to our citizens. It is not a time for us to respond to our citizens. If I do it for you, I would have to then do it for anyone else that's up here. And the public comment section could turn into an hour and a half of going back and forth, which is not, in my opinion, the reason why the public comment section is on the agenda.
Well, now we're in the speakers portion.
Right.
And I am a citizen like everyone else and a council member. If I am not allowed to rebut some of these comments here, then tell me the forum that I am allowed to do so, because I am a citizen and I'm an elected council member. I got the most votes of any council member over the last 8 years of elections.
I would recommend that you reach out to these individuals via email on your time, set up a meeting, and do so individually.
That is not acceptable because I am a public citizen and I deserve the right to make public comment. So if you're not going to allow it here, then at the next meeting, I will line up as a public citizen and I will offer my comments.
That will be fine.
Very good.
Thank you. Moving on to the approval of council meeting minutes and closed minutes and other minutes related thereto. First will be our August 2023 Town Council meeting minutes. Do we have a motion to accept?
Council President, I'll make the motion to accept the town council meeting minutes from August 2023.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. I wasn't prepared for you. I was waiting for Carl's second, so I'm
Oh, sorry.
kind of thrown off on the order of things tonight,
Oh,
Carl.
sorry,
I'll
Lynn.
second.
All right, do we have any discussion regarding the minutes from August 7th, 2023? Hearing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're good. We're missing our trash can. Next up will be August 2023 public hearing minutes for ordinance 2023-8 for the purposes of providing guidelines for the Planning Commission in deciding whether to grant an open space and adequacy waiver under Section 25-5G. Do we have a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for the public hearing for ordinance 2023-8 for purpose of providing guidelines for the Planning Commission and deciding whether to grant an open space and adequacy waiver under Section 25-5G2.
All right,
Make that motion.
I will second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We're already turning the page. Next up will be August 2023 closed meeting minutes under statutory authority to close session, general provisions article. The subject was water connection. Do we have a motion to approve?
I will make a motion to approve the August 2023 closed meeting minutes with the statutory authority to close the session for water connection with the subject.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Next up, in the final meeting minutes for approval will be August 2023 closed meeting minutes, statutory authority to close session to consider the acquisition of land. Do we have a motion to accept or
I will
approve?
make a motion to accept those closed meeting minutes from the statutory authority to close the session for the purpose of land acquisition.
I will second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Next up, we have our Civil Air Patrol report. Captain Rolfe, if you are available.
Good evening. I'm Captain Winters, his deputy commander. I'm going to be presenting our report on his behalf tonight. First, I would like to first begin off with the missions and activities that we performed in August. We have continued to support our Wings Bay Patrol mission, which provides additional air safety observation support for the Coast Guard around the Chesapeake Bay. And we also had one squadron member who even responded to a short notice tasking to provide aerial photography in support for a region level exercise. In August, we've, I apologize, nervous here. In the month of August, we provided support for the town for a couple of activities where we provided road closure for the Mount Airy Mile and the Cheese and Wine Festival. And we also manned an information table and supported the recognition of Vietnam veterans at the Wreaths Across America mobile education exhibit up in New Windsor. We did have one member of the squadron who completed his airborne photography qualification in August. So And of course, we're continuing our focus on communication training during the month, which included active participation in the statewide CAP radio net calls, which we do every week. And it's done to make sure that our communication equipment is being maintained and properly being taken care of. And also in August was a pilot to determine availability participants on Wednesday nights, and corresponding with our weekly meetings provide additional training opportunities. And we've been leading the planning and execution of an additional skills-based training session on communication for other squadrons within the group. And during the month of August, we had one of our cadets who actually went up for an orientation ride up in a Cessna aircraft. We've gained three new members, 2 new cadets, 1 new senior member. And as far as our operational status, we do have a fully operational ground team who is prepared to go out for search and rescue missions. And for the month of September, we will be participating in a wing-level search and rescue exercise at Martin State Airport. And we'll be supporting the town's Oktoberfest later this month. And just this evening, we provided a color guard for the town's 9/11 memorial ceremony. And we will also be leading planning efforts for support to the Anne Arundel Emergency Preparation Expo. So that's it for the report, but of course, we do meet Wednesday evenings for anyone who's interested in stopping by. It is an open invitation. So other than that, I'm done. Thank you for your time this evening.
That's great. I just had one comment. Thanks so much for being at the 9/11 ceremony today. I thought your crew did extremely well, and it was nice to see you all up there. And thanks for your help throughout the last couple of months, because we've had a lot of town activities, and you guys have been there every step of the way. So I greatly appreciate it. So thanks for all that you do. So.
You're very welcome, Mr. Mayor.
Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, can I just make a comment? I want to say thank you for everything you guys do. I don't know if you realize how much, not just us, but the town citizens appreciate you being out there and providing support and helping. So thank you, and thank you for presenting tonight. You did a great job.
Thank you.
You don't need to be nervous. You were fine.
You did great, absolutely. Thank you very much. There will be no volunteer fire company report, so we will move on to the Mount Airy Police Department. Our acting chief, Lieutenant Ginevra. How are you, sir?
Mayor and City Council and Mount Airy community. For the month of August, our community outreach from July 31st to August 5th, the Mount Airy Police Department participated with the Mount Airy Firemen's Carnival. As a result of that, the Mount Airy Police Department and obviously the citizens here and those in surrounding areas, with our raffle donation, we got $960 that we donated to the Community Foundation of Carroll County. So thank you to everyone that participated in that. That was great. That's the second year in a row that we did that. so that's very helpful. Well, August 12th, myself, Officer Gebhardt, and Officer Bridges, we assisted with the Mount Airy Mile. Again, thank you to the Civil Air Patrol, Captain Rolfe and his people. They're very helpful on blocking those side streets, so thank you again. Myself, later on August 12th, I participated along with Officer Medeiros and Officer Gebhardt, Camp Night. If anyone ever gets an opportunity, it was great to participate in that. Definitely some of the baking items that they had, delicious. So August 17th, I conducted some bike patrol for the wine and cheese event. That was quite interesting. I haven't been on the bike in a while, so I didn't fall. August 24th, Mount Airy police officers, we participated in the Pack the Cruiser event. Again, many thanks to everyone that helped participate in that. That benefited the Mount Airy Net. The Mount Airy Net reached out to the police department, and obviously some of the shelves were quite bare. I was really surprised because, again, for Christmas, so we did a great job. So thanks again. It got off to a slow start, but Mount Airy knocked it out of the park again. The cruisers were all packed, and we filled some of the shelves. So thank you again. Myself and some of my family members, we participated in the Wagon Tails event over at Watkins Park. That was pretty nice. I had my dog Apollo out there. He enjoyed it. And then we participated in the Celebrate Mount Airy also for that event. There are some pictures that are attached in your handouts that you'll see in itself. Some of the things that we did. Just note in there for their financial overview report that the Mount Airy Net, there is a picture in there depicted with the officers that participated in reference to that Christmas event that we did. Some significant events that we had. The mayor was so kindly with that proclamation. Obviously, read it out earlier. I won't go into detail again with that. That was with Officer Gebhardt and Senior Officer Medeiros in their investigation and the recovery of a handgun that was loaded and a large seizure of narcotics. April 19th, Corporal Brooks participated in a joint field sobriety checkpoint with the Carroll County Sheriff's Department, other agencies. There were 539 vehicles that contact was made in a short period of time from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock p.m. With that, even though no significant arrests were made for DWI, the public awareness and deterrence was out there, so that was quite beneficial to all surrounding counties. A gentleman by the name of Mr. Rick Bibby, excuse me if I say it wrong, sir, presented the Mount Airy Police Department with an appreciation for hometown heroes through the Modern Woodmen of America recognizes the Mount Airy Police Department. You believe in volunteer service, and so do we. As fraternal financial services and organization dedicated to improving the quality of life for families and communities, we recognize your accomplishments and appreciate your contribution to your community. You're truly a hometown hero. And again, this is from Mr. Rick Bigby. He's going to donate through his fraternal financial company of Modern Woodmen $100 to the Mount Airy Police Department, in which we can turn around and donate that $100 to an organization. And next year that we're going to try to put something together with Mr. Bigby in itself. If the Mount Airy Police Department raises $2,500, his institution will match that $2,500, and that we can also donate to another organization on behalf of their company and along with the Mount Airy Police Department. If the dollar amount exceeds that, that's great, but again, his company will match up to $2,500. So I thought that was really nice that he reached out to our department, and Officer Gebhardt spent quite some time speaking to Mr. Bidby. So again, thank you for that. Here's just an example of that. Again, it is in your packet in itself. So, I mean, I really appreciate that. For calls for service for the Mount Airy Police Department, we had 576 calls, which resulted in a 13.13 increase of calls from 2022. And that could be also as a result of officer self-generated calls. There was one overdose to report for the month of August. And then just note in itself for, again, it's in your handout, ladies and gentlemen, is that our traffic citations numbers were down but noted on itself for criminal arrest, again, self-initiated or calls, we had 22 arrests. That doesn't even compare to 2020 for the month of August, where we had 4. For 2021, we had 0. And for 2022, we had 13 for the month of August. And again, that's a result of these officers actively being out there rather than just the calls, being aggressive through the town, that we're seeing a high increase in some of the volume of different things, hence the proclamation for the officers that they've been involved. Also, I'd like to add in itself, too, our K-9 officer, Christopher Eberts, will be returning to the Mount Airy Police Department as our K-9 officer, and he will be bringing a lab. So I'm happy. He has a start date of September 18th, so hopefully everything works out with Officer Eberts for the 18th to start. So I just wanted to share that again, that we're going to have a K-9 officer here from Mount Airy, which I think is an incredible asset. Again, that goes along with, if you look at our website, the numerous CDS violations that the officer has participated in, so they didn't have to call for a dog out, which sometimes can be a conflict depending on what they're investigating. That's everything that I have. Does anyone have any questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I understand you have a new intern?
Yes. Miss Katie Galletti, very, very helpful, Miss Galletti. If you like to stand up other than just wait.
Yeah, stand up.
So, yes,
Stand
thank you. So, yes, Miss Galletti, very helpful on a lot of our events and stuff like that. Make sure she gets her hours in for Hood College. Good college, my daughter went there. So, yes, definitely support Hood College. But, yes, so if you see Miss Galletti at one of our booths and stuff like that, she's helping out the Mount Airy Department, and she definitely does an outstanding job. So thank you for your help, Ms. Galletti.
Does she know about Wednesday, about our little in-house cookout?
Yep, she'll be there.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah, for so many things.
I already locked her in when it.
We're going to stick a spatula in her hand.
When it went out, when the email went out, I locked her in with her school schedule.
We're going to put her on the grill.
Everything looks great here. I
Great.
appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Can I just add one quick comment so people don't go, oh, dog? Can you please remind us, this is not going to be a seek and attack dog. This is going to be a
No, ma'am. It's
sniff and alert. What are the words?
So this is going to be a single-purpose dog. The dog that we've had in the past was a dual purpose. So that would have been for narcotics and for tracking, and that would have been that aggressiveness of that bite dog.
Right.
Mount Airy and the police department, we are not going with a bite dog. It's going to be a single purpose for just, so to say, like you stated, sniff. It's just for narcotics and article fines, and then if anything, we can advance for that dog for tracks, for if there's any silver alerts or anyone, because we do have wooded sections, and not only that, if we need help other surrounding jurisdictions with that also.
So it's sniffing, searching, alerting, and that's it?
Yes,
No-
ma'am.
No
It's-
seek and attack?
No, ma'am.
Good, thank you.
I do have a comment. Just
Yes,
a
sir.
comment to say thank you for all you do all the time
Yes, sir.
for you and your department, but special thanks for supporting our Streets and Roads Commission, our fall Labor Day Safe Streets campaign. And I know you're very supportive of that and active in it, so I want to thank you for that. So thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Anyone else, any questions, comments? Thank you, Lieutenant.
Great, thank you.
All right, next up, we have our mayor, council, and staff reports. Reminder, this is highlights and action items only. We will begin with our mayor, Mayor Hushhour.
Thank you, Council President. Of course, I want to start with the fact that it is 9/11. It's Patriot Day, and we will never forget. Ironically, I've been out there flying for 6 out of the last 7 days, and I can tell you the airline industry will never forget. On to some other things going on. The town is supporting the Frederick County Goes Purple effort. It's a grassroots movement to bring awareness and reduce the number of substance-related deaths and overdoses. The town has placed a banner across from Town Hall, and Frederick County Goes Purple has also placed several banners in Watkins Park and will be hosting a prayer walk on September 17th at 1 p.m. in Watkins Park. As Councilmember Demoter just mentioned a second ago, we are in the middle of our Safe Streets program. I'm not going to say a lot about it because I think he'll he'll go ahead and reinforce that as well. But great job by the Streets and Roads Commission putting that together throughout the entire town. PFAS update, we have gotten the third quarter sample results. We're interpreting those, and I believe they might actually already be on the website. Okay, so they're posted, but I'm going to get a briefing on them. I'll do another video, talk about what the levels are, try to let the public know where we're at as far as PFAS remediation goes. So expect another video very soon. The residents of Sunset have stayed here, which I greatly, and I haven't seen you in a long time, so I didn't recognize you. It's good to see you again. So I haven't seen him since Scout days. So, so the staff is working on a fence and plantings plan for the entire length of the trail. The conundrum for me is that when I ran, I talked about blocking off that Sunset access. Having said that, I mean, obviously, there's a sizable number of residents that would like to get access through there. So I don't want to back up on a promise that I made when I was campaigning, but there is new information out there. I'm trying to reach out to the residents that have grave concerns about this and see if there's a way that we can work together and do something sensible so that we can either remediate some sort of access so that the citizens can use it. But I don't want to, it's a hard pill for me to swallow to start walking backwards, but I'm gonna reach out to them and do everything that I can for that. Let's see, the duck race is on September 17th. That's gonna be out at the Carnival grounds. That'll be from noon to 2 o'clock. That's a big event, a big fundraiser for the Rotary Club and the Mount Airy Volunteer Fire Company. So please go out there and see all these rubber ducks that get thrown down the little waterway that we create down there. And the Historical Society has a lot of things that are coming up in October, and I'll go ahead and brief these out so that you can get them on your calendar, or at least know to hit the Historical Society of Mount Airy website. They're planning on the return of the Haunted Caboose. That'll be October 22nd, 23rd, and 28th. They plan on turning the entire town into Mount Scary and changing everything to spooky themes. The Murder, Mayhem, and Mystery tours will begin again throughout October, and tickets will be on sale through Eventbrite. So you can go to that website. There will be another ghost bus tour, which I think Lynn and I rode on last year. It was actually pretty good, and I think Wayne Evans left, but he's a character in it, and he's a character anyway. The Historical Society Box and Bag Bingo is returning. That'll be February 9th of 2024, so you'll have time to spool up on that. And the Historical Society Hall of Fame Banquet is going to be March 19th of 2024, but you can nominate somebody anytime between now and November of this year to be in the class of 2024 Hall of Fame for the Historical Society. And I think that's enough for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. We'll move on to our Recreation and Parks Board, Beautification Commission, and Flatiron Task Force with Council Secretary Galletti.
Thank you. I will start with beautification. They did not meet in August, so I have no report. The next meeting is Tuesday, September 19th, 7 o'clock, Town Hall. I'll go to the next short one. Flatiron Task Force has not met in a couple months. There will be a meeting to be determined in October, but I have some updates from the chairman of the task force. I apologize. I'll send that to all the council members. On August 23rd, the mayor was informed the town did not receive the Maryland Historical Trust Preservation Grant. Efforts will continue next year to get that grant for a different phase of the renovation. However, I'm going to read from what you have, Mayor. The task force received the $10,000 grant from Preservation Maryland to go towards the architectural design. The council approved Brennan Company Architects to provide services, so we're moving forward according to Parks and Rec. They are going to begin their work and assessment of building renovations and plans under the terms of the contract. Further details will be in October. The Civil Air Patrol examined the building on August 22nd. Thank you again for Civil Air Patrol. To consider establishing possible emergency office space as part of the CAP mission. So the advantage to that is there's potential state and/or federal funding that we could possibly get to help with CAP involvement as like a emergency office place. And the Historical Society has pledged $10,000 towards Flatiron. Fundraising has started, as the mayor said, the ghost tours and other things. So stay tuned. We will get the word out probably on the town website when the next meeting is set up in October. Parks and Rec. Rails to Trails West, construction sign removed. A lot of this I'm going to skip because the mayor covered it. Windy Ridge Park, they are still working. I've seen pictures of them on Facebook. If you would like to help them, go to Facebook and you can reach out to the Ellises to work at that park. They're working all the time. Park benches are being delivered by the shed. The skate park, punk track items, landscape decoration, signage, concrete ceiling. Our staff and our Parks and Rec are really busy, so thank you to them. Watkins volleyball net, there's a new net and the poles are up and I think there's sand in there. So we've got a new volleyball court at Watkins Park that we had years ago. They've got that up and running. There were geology walks, pickleball, camp night, as you guys have touched on. The one thing I want to touch on, and I apologize, council, I forwarded you some emails. So the Parks has asked me to bring forward to you, they are lights being donated at the softball field at Watkins Park. So it's an anonymous donor, and they wanted me to pass it on to council. I talked to the mayor. I sent out an email to staff, so this has been going on for several months. This person is anonymously donating these lights, and I'm sure he's aware that Maya has been trying to get lights for 20 years, and they're very cost prohibitive, and there's a lot involved. So the fact that somebody wants to do that. So staff has been working for several months with Parks and Rec. Barney has seen the plans. He's approved the plans. Accounting has gotten involved because I had a lot of questions. We're being basically donated a capital asset, so everybody's been looped in. And I tried to ask any question that council members could think of. My first question was, what do you want me to present? They just want us to approve them to go ahead and move forward with the project because they're like in the 12th hour of the project, and I don't want to delay it any longer since they have this person ready, the company ready. They put out the bids for you were involved in the whole purchasing and the information on the company doing it, or who the company was. So they consulted you, Barney, right? So if you guys have any questions, I did forward you some emails tonight on the extensive information I got from, goodness gracious, Ashley, Katie, Barney, Nancy, and the whole Parks and Rec board. So if anybody has any questions, they just like us to say, go ahead and move forward with this project.
I would be the first one to say, go ahead and move forward with the project. I have extensively tried to get lights at Watkins Park for a long time. We are in a desperate shortage of baseball fields, softball fields, and with the lights on there, it extends the hours of use until about 10 p.m. at night, which would allow us in this time period to get an extra 2 games in. So for me, it's something that when I was on the Parks and Rec, we started talking about it then. I'm glad to see that it's been followed through and it's going to come to hopefully a completion here soon. So for me, I would make a motion to approve the lights to go through as perceived.
Okay, hold on, before we second, I would,
Well, I'll go ahead and second that motion and we can now discuss.
okay.
I will second that motion, now discuss.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm still learning the process. Lynn will keep, Councilwoman Gillette, yeah. I'm not against the lights. I would just rather have maybe one, I'm not sure if they had public hearings at the Park and Rec meeting or not. I would just rather get some input from the people that might be inundated with any potential light sources or, like light pollution and things.
I'll go ahead
like
and
that.
address that because there are no houses within the approximate vicinity of where the lights would go. And I did ask, the field orientation and direction of the lighting is pointing away from any nearby residential structures that it could potentially go after. The light heads can be adjusted if necessary to concentrate direct lighting if coverage extends beyond the desired range. And I would imagine they're going to have to perfect that once they get it up and you get these girls out for the softball field, you get them on that field, just like the pickleball courts. We're still adjusting those lights. So I think it's a work in progress. So I want to point out some bullet points they sent me. There's no cost to the town for purchase or installation, which is huge. The project was reviewed and approved by the town engineer. Extends, as you said, the field, the LED. One of my questions was, it's being given us now, who's responsible for the upkeep and maintenance and the electric bill? They already gave me all the answers. We will be. And I asked about the cost, and it's roughly about $60 a month we pay for the lights at the back of Twin Ridge. So these are going to be LED lights, going to be significantly less than about $60 a month. So it is I consider a minimal cost compared to what the benefit we're getting from this. So to answer your question, yeah, it looks like there's going to be really no impact to residential. If you look at where that softball field is, there's literally no residents around there except the top of Watkins above the soccer field, which is nowhere near. That softball field, if you recall, is down from the soccer field, is dropped down in. So it's really where it's going to be. It's nowhere near residents.
Okay, I just want to make sure, and I know at MML, I was
That's a good question.
talking with a lighting contractor, I'm not sure who we chose or who contracted, that if it's the newer style lights, they have improved with what I want to call like the light pollution or them escaping from the field. I know perimeters and stuff of that nature, so, okay, no, I just wanted to make
Oh, those
sure
are
that
good
those
questions.
concerns were addressed and things of that
Well, that's
nature.
why I want to get all my questions answered before it was presented to you guys, because they're basically just looking for us to approve them moving forward to proceed with the installation. It's going to be 4 LED light poles by Federated Lighting to be paid for in full by an anonymous donor.
How many? 4 poles, you said?
4 LED light poles. And I forwarded you
okay.
the email. If you look at the pictures, there's some attached to it about how they're set up even. They've got a schematic of the softball field. So picture the soccer field is up above, parking lot down below, playground here, it's down, and then the lights are going to be home, like first base, third base, right field, left field. So they'll be shining into the field. So even at the potential of being anywhere near a home, they're not even shining out, they're shining in.
Okay. 4 poles, just, I was envisioning a little bit more poles. How tall, did they say how tall they were supposed to be, the height of the poles? I'm just asking.
Let me see if it's on this sheet.
It's probably on the paper there.
Well, it's just one of those things, I don't want.
They're tall poles,
Okay.
and like Lynn is saying, is the lights are shining more horizontal. Only 12 degrees up is what they're planned to be from the horizontal position. So we were more concerned with not so much the houses, but going to 27, having glare.
That's what I was concerned, like I want to say 27, and anyone over at Nottingham I doubt it, that's far, far away, but you never know how light travels now, so I just want to make sure. And only be on during games and off, we have control over when they're on, when they're off, not like the basketball court where they'll be on until, say, 10 o'clock nightly or something. Or does that have to be worked out?
I'm imagining they're going to be,
Details still to work out.
Okay.
yeah, but I would hope it would be like Twin Ridge where there's a box. It's a locked box to turn them on, turn them off.
Okay,
So I would hope, because we don't really want to be paying for lights to be running all night long.
if no one's there, yeah, no,
Right.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
All right, cool, thank you.
Any other discussion with the motion on the floor?
Yes, just a comment. I mean, it sounds very promising. I'm all for recreation, baseball, the addition of this resource. I would just ask that, I like things documented on a piece of paper. So I think it would be valuable to have a memorandum for the record or some memo that says, this is the action, this is being donated, this is how they're going to be installed, these are the conditions of operation, here's any potential liability, here are the estimated future costs that the town will incur moving forward. That, to me, would be a very valuable backstop, documented piece of paper to support the vote we're taking with some details. So if we can have that piece of paper generated to support this vote, then my amendment is that we vote for this with the agreement we're going to prepare a memorandum for the record with the details.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Along those lines, logistics question, and if I wasn't flying 6 out of the last 7 days, I would have asked you last week, but is there any need for budget amendments, or how do we bring this in accounting-wise and then spend it?
So it doesn't sound like from the information that I've gotten, that any money is actually going to be coming through the town at all. It just sounds like the anonymous donor
It's
is
going-
going to be paying the contractor or installer directly. What will happen is it will become one of the town's property and fixed
Okay.
asset. And then it'll almost work like a grant, so the cost of it will be fully funded by contributed capital, which is what happens when we have a grant-funded project. The grant money that we get from whatever is considered contributed capital.
Okay. All right, I appreciate it. And since the money's going directly that way, there's not going to be a paper trail via a budget amendment or anything like that. Is it even in the budget?
No.
No, okay, so based on that, if it were in the budget, or if we were putting in the budget, if we had a paper trail on those lines, then, then I would say we're covered. But with nothing like that in writing, what I would like is for the town staff to generate something that shows how this money is moving around and how these lights are being put up and who's paying who, that sort of stuff. If the town staff could work on something like that.
And that is information we'd have to get from the donor for our records.
Okay,
We would have to get information on, and not just like word of mouth, this is how much it costs. We would actually need to see like a breakdown
okay.
of what everything cost and how it was paid for our records for fixed assets, because our auditors would look for that.
Okay, so if you could create something that would make the auditors comfortable, I'd be happy to sign it if I need to sign it. If you sign it, that's fine too. But some sort of a paper trail would be great. And I'm agreeable to that. So.
And thank you for bringing that up, Mayor, because I did tell them, coming from an accounting standpoint, I understand it's anonymous, but we are going to have all the documentation of the cost because it's a fixed asset coming in, going into our books now. And they said, I brought that up to the chair. The chair was going to be here tonight to answer all your questions, and he got COVID. So I'm trying to answer for him. And he said, absolutely, they would get all the information that you would need from the contractor doing all the work, basically all the cost papers you would need. They're just asking us for the town to say, go ahead and move forward. But I agree with Councilman Demoter. It would be nice to see kind of what the mayor just said, remember, we're working with a volunteer commission that does a lot of work, and they do fantastic. So they found this great opportunity. I agree with you guys, we run with it, and then shore up the details, whatever you guys need from them. And I can always bring that to the next Parks and Rec meeting too.
Yeah, and I'll close it by saying I fully support this. I support those lights. That's awesome that somebody did that. And I don't know who that anonymous person is, but thank you.
Yes. And one more, and I did find it is on the plans, if I'm reading it right, it's 160-foot tall poles on the lighting diagram. So do we need to modify the motion then to include something saying council supports the idea of moving forward with it once, but prior to any shovel hits dirt, all paperwork needs to be
I would
something?
say that as the mayor just said, that's going on staff to shore up the details. That's details beyond us as a council.
Okay,
That's staff, accounting, engineering,
Okay.
like the mayor just said.
I just want to make sure if
Yeah.
we don't have to, if we have to modify it, now's the time, so it doesn't have to
I think
come-
they're just
come back.
asking us to give them the ability to move forward, and then the mayor just said he can get staff to work with them and shore
Okay.
up all the details, which I'm comfortable with that.
Yeah, I would leave it up to the
Okay,
mayor,
yeah, that's-
our town administrator, and our engineer to ensure that the town's best interests are taken care of regarding these lights. What they're asking for is our
Thoughts or permission?
recommendation to move forward with this process.
Okay.
And that is what the motion on the floor will be doing.
Cool.
Any further discussion on the motion? We have a second. No further discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Please let the Parks and Rec Commission know. Thank you.
I will, thank you. And that was, let me make sure that concluded my report. Oh, no, sorry. So that was the last thing for Parks and Rec. The next meeting is Thursday, September 21st, 7 o'clock via Zoom and Facebook Live. And that concludes my reports.
Thank you, Council Secretary. Next up, Planning Commission with Councilmember Evans.
All right, thank you. I don't have anything near as exciting as that, but the two subdivisions, Bartkiss and WJK parcels were approved unanimously for the new roundabout. Ordinance 2023-32. This is on our agenda for tonight to approve an extension so more research can be done on the percentage of open space for other towns that are near us, what they use for their MXD zones. Ordinances 2023-35 and 2023-39 were combined into 2023-39 solely. We discussed using a third-party consultant for green tree development or any MXD development moving forward for their advice and recommendations pertaining to MXD properties. Public hearing for Mount Airy Crossing, the Beck property, will be held on Wednesday, September 27th at the American Legion between 6 and 9:15 p.m. And also on Saturday, September 30th at the American Legion between 1 p.m. and 4:15 p.m. That is it for Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we will have Streets and Roads Commission. Oh, sorry, question.
Quick question, 2023-35 and 39, those were the cannabis?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, Mayor. Next up, Streets and Roads Commission and EDC with Councilmember Demoter.
All right, thank you. Streets and Roads, I work with the mayor, the police department, town staff, and the Streets and Roads chairperson. And I organized and held a meeting with MDOT, State Highway Administration District 7 leadership and staff. The meeting was held on August 23rd. It was an opportunity to build on our partnerships we established with them a year ago to identify issues and opportunities for solutions to Mount Airy streets and roads challenges. Topics discussed include progress we've made as a town since last year, the need for, we have pedestrian crosswalk issues and support needs in our Main Street downtown zone. This is the crosswalk by the caboose. Our desire for a traffic study at Twin Arch Road and Route 27. Our concerns about the need for a Route 27 potential guardrail along Route 27 to protect the residents that live in the vicinity. And then a permit application for another educational speed sign, this one going on North Main Street. We made good progress in all these areas and identified specific follow-on actions. I did this privately, but I want to do it publicly. I really want to thank the mayor and especially his staff for the first-class arrangements that the staff made for the meeting. The MDOT folks that came and visited actually commented that it was a quality class meeting, so thank you for that. As a reminder to our citizens, again, just a reminder, we're running a Streets and Roads Labor Day Back to School Safe Streets campaign. This is ongoing through the end of September. It's a town-wide campaign with safe driving yard signs, so if you have speeding concerns near your home, on your street, or in your neighborhood, this is a time to highlight your concerns and send a message about not speeding. So if you'd like to participate, contact Town Hall. We will bring a sign out, we will place it for you, and at the end of the campaign, we will remove it. So again, thank you to the mayor for his support, and Lucy Regal, our Streets and Roads chairperson, and all of the members who are doing a great job. Next, I wanted to comment that I received many positive comments from citizens in person, via email, and via text supportive of my vote for a recent appointment to the Planning Commission and my rationale for the vote that I took. They appreciated me looking out for the interests of the citizens and of the town. So you heard a lot of comments this evening from people in the room. This is a town of almost 10,000 people, and there are a lot of other people in this town that expressed positive support for the basis for my vote. Moving on to the Economic Development Commission. There was no EDC meeting during the month of August. Our next meeting will be held September 27th. And as a reminder, the town will hold its Oktoberfest on September 23rd. That completes my report. Thank you.
Any questions? Next up, Recycling and Sanitation Commission and Sustainability Commission with Councilmember Munder.
All right, I'll make it quick. There was no sanitation and, excuse me, let me get this straight up here. Sanitation Commission and Sustainability Commission, man, I'm messing up tonight, sorry. The Sustainability Commission met in, good lordy. No, I can't read my own writing tonight. I'm messing up because I'm combined two, and they've been hit or missing these double. I know. Okay, let me get this right. The recycling meeting was held on August 16th. The main topic was planning for the upcoming Green Fair on 9/30 at the end of the month, with the rain date of the next day, Sunday, 10/1. This will be held in the municipal lot in the afternoon, so please check the town website for what is coming to remind people what to do for saving the environment and improving life as we know it on this planet here. The next meeting for that should be October 10/18 at Town Hall at 7 p.m. for the recycling. There was no Recycling and Sanitation Commission meeting. That one will be held 9/20/2023 at 7 p.m. at Town Hall. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Any questions? All right, Water and Sewer Commission is mine. We met on 9/6 at 7 p.m. here at Town Hall. The water meter installation process is in full swing. There are 5 total technicians doing installs, and to date, there is a total of 960 meters that have been installed as of September 6th. The new water rates have been updated in the billing system. The commission spoke on and will look to reassess the voluntary water restriction during our October meeting. The commission spent a good amount of time reviewing informative flyers on what citizens can do to protect themselves from PFAS and the other commonly used items other than water that contains PFAS in our everyday world. The commission once again reviewed the new water rates and discussed ideas on how to fund capital projects within the town's water system. The commission also reviewed the Hazen report on water demand and capacity to see the impact the town would face if it was forced to pull a well offline. Our next meeting will be October 4th at 7 p.m. here at Town Hall, and that will conclude the September Water and Sewer Commission report. We will now move on to our town attorney, Mr. Tom McCarron.
Thank you, Council President. Since the last time we were together, and as we discussed before, I do have a letter that is pretty final, I think. I got it to Barney this evening to take a look at one last time to send to the mobile home park owner, as we had discussed before. As also indicated in an email to you this evening, I got back the red lines relative to the portion of Lot 5 that we discussed, and also assisted in the preparation of the ordinances that are on agenda tonight, and finally attended the Planning Commission, mostly relative to those same ordinances. Thank you.
Any questions? All right, thank you. Heather, with the town administrator report, do you want to speak on anything? We have copies. You can, but you don't need to.
Mr. Warrington actually submitted his last official one. So
Okay.
I do want to add, though, he indicated that Heather was very busy with the audit, but I do want to give a shout out to Ms. Katie Moore. This is her first, undertaking her first financial audit by herself, and she has been extremely busy. So I did want to put the spotlight on her for a second.
Thank you, and thank you, Katie. Hopefully that's going smooth. Good, good. Happy to hear it. Happy to hear it. We all did receive copies of code enforcement and our zoning administrator report as well. We will now move on to new business, commission appointments and reappointments, and I will relinquish the floor to our mayor.
Okay, I'm making the following recommendations for commission appointments, reappointments at the August meeting here. 2 reappointments, that would be Dwight Mullinex to the Beautification Commission, and I think we can do them both at one time. John Cherry to the Water and Sewer Commission. If you guys are okay in joining those up, then we can do that.
I'm good with that.
Fine with that.
All right, I will make a motion to approve Dwight Mullenix to the Beautification Commission and John Cherry to the Water and Sewer Commission. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you to both of those volunteers.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to ordinances and resolutions. First on the agenda, ordinance 2023-30 to change open space inadequacy waiver threshold for mixed-use district, MXD. This is for adoption. I will make a motion to adopt ordinance 2023-30 as written. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Hearing a second, now do we have any discussion?
Yes, I'd like to make some comments.
Absolutely.
All right, so I think I've been very outspoken about placing a strong value on open space as part of a well-planned development. But first and foremost, I believe this ordinance is unfair and it is flawed from a policy perspective. It is changing the open space default requirement to qualify for a waiver in the late stages of the development plan review and approval process. And I mean late stages. We're probably about 3 to 4 months away from taking a vote on a pre-concept plan. I am here to represent the nearly 10,000 citizens of this town fairly. Every citizen has the right to buy, own, and sell property, to have that property developed following the rules and laws currently on the books. If you don't like the ordinances in place, if you want to change the laws governing land use planning, zoning, and development, then do it, but those changes must be done prospectively, not impacting plans currently in the review process. Second, this action of changing requirements in combination with similar past and current efforts by elected officials, certain elected officials, to make numerous changes to ordinances, often that are technically flawed, and specifically targeted to the Beck MXD property development, heightens the town's vulnerability to litigation. I have highlighted and cautioned on this note many times. The reason is you are now actually changing a requirement. Third, our town government's culture regarding property zoning and development plans we suddenly don't like is to modify requirements midstream by improper reliance and abuse of the legislative process rather than following our land use planning and development bodies, such as the Planning Commission, and our approved processes. We see a development plan we don't like, and we start making changes legislatively, willy-nilly. It is unfair, short-sighted, and has ramifications to the long-term land use planning goals and objectives the town spent years working on to guide the future of the town. Bottom line, we never allow our regulatory process through existing ordinances to be stable enough for long enough to simply see the process through. I have seen this occur in the town now on multiple occasions, and there is precedent on this, starting with the cold storage property. We just seem to keep doing it over and over. I do not condone it, and I will not be part of it. We have laws on the books. Several of these laws I did not vote for. Nevertheless, they are the laws on the books, and we have a development plan in process, so we need to apply those rules. We have a regulatory approach in place, right? We have an MXD ordinance. It lays out the requirements for a pre-concept plan. It lays out qualitative criteria for how to evaluate that plan and vote on the plan. On the back end, we have a concept plan that would go through the adequate public facilities review process. We have an open space waiver process, which we have just strengthened by adding open space guidelines to aid the Planning Commission in making these determinations. Mind you, we all worked hard on that, Planning Commission, myself, and the council, and we did it without changing any requirements. We simply added guidance, a noteworthy distinction from what's happening here. In closing, I think voting for this ordinance would be an unforced error. And I implore you to vote against this ordinance, and if this ordinance should pass, then I implore the mayor to veto it. I am fearful of the precedent all of you are setting and where you are taking our town in terms of liability, litigation, and flawed policy. There are ways to address this issue through the current ordinances and processes on the books. We simply need to have, rather the rest of you simply need to have, the discipline and the courage of your convictions to follow the process fairly, evaluate proposed development plans and waiver applications on their merits, and vote accordingly. If you don't like the plan, then don't vote for it. If a waiver application comes to you as a planning commission, don't vote for it. Those are my comments. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councilman Munter.
Thank you, Council President. I'm going to speak on the ordinance itself here. If I'm remembering correctly, this came back from the Planning Commission with a favorable recommendation, correctly? I'm not exactly sure.
4-1 favorable, absolutely.
4-1 favorable, so they went through the process with them. During that Planning Commission hearing, when the public was allowed to speak, I don't believe anyone, developer, property owner, or anything else got up and spoke against this ordinance. I may be incorrect, but I don't believe so. That surprised me. Secondly, here tonight, everybody that spoke, they did have a chance to come and speak again against it. I didn't hear one nay, thoughtful comment except my colleagues' comments here. And everyone that got up and spoke for it in one way or the other said they support the concept of this. So I guess I'm just stating facts on the process of how this came to be and went through the system. I did have some questions on it regarding the addition of industrial and commercial to it, but there are other things in the code that basically, I don't want to say nullifies it, but industrial commercial brings no residential, so they're not included within that, so they'll be, granted the waiver. But no, I'm fine with it. The processes that it went through, and that's it, Council President.
Thank you. Any other comments? Any at all?
I'd like to maybe ask the town attorney, I hear midstream and I hear we're in the middle of a process. Where exactly are we, in layman's terms, in the process of this development?
Well, right now, as we sit, there's a proposed pre-concept sketch layout plan that I think the charrettes have been done, if I'm not mistaken, and I guess the next step is for a joint workshop, if I'm not mistaken, between the town, or a public hearing, I'm sorry. There will, in addition, be a joint workshop between the Planning Commission and the Town Council, and then ultimately, the Town Council will be the entity that will vote on approval or non-approval, as the case may be. After that, of course, there's still quite a bit to go, because then the concept plan comes in, plus a pattern book that the Planning Commission has to review. The pattern book will include an assortment of items that aren't yet set, or won't have yet been set by the layout plan. The layout will be set, but by way of example, there's landscaping, there's architectural features, things of that sort that the pattern book will get into. So, there's still quite a bit of process left, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
So we're pretty much in the beginning of the process for this whole development.
Forgive the football analogy, I think I've given it to somebody before. I'd say we're about a 30-yard line, 35-yard line, somewhere in there.
Now you're talking my language with the football stuff. What I think,
I gave that analogy too. 5 guesses.
what I think is that's being said is we are not in the middle. We're not close to the middle. We're not in the middle, period. I will address a few comments about being unfair, about abuse, and certain things like that. When 2021-16 was voted on, it was unfair to the citizens. It was abuse of power against our citizens. It was done with no mayor. It was done with only a sitting council president who was then acting mayor. There was no veto power at all to be done. That specific ordinance was also done, admittedly, for one specific property, and I quote, "If 2021-16 does not pass, the property is dead." If that is not telling you it is for one specific property, then I don't know what is. If I'm going to be completely honest here, I'm not necessarily so much worried about Beck. It's 88 acres, that's a lot of acreage. My concern is what happens when you bring in Harrison Lashir and it's 293 acres. And now you have an ordinance that should have never passed to begin with, done without a mayor, done with opposing views of the people that actually drafted MXD to begin with. And MXD, when drafted, had a safeguard of a 3 acre per 100 residency built into it specifically to protect this community. Tom, would you like to confirm that, please?
You're talking about the APFO waiver provision, and that's correct, that when if I recall the sequence of things correctly, it was that the MXD ordinance was first passed, and then later the APFO, I think that's the ordinance number you're talking about, -16, I guess. So in that interim between MXD, the ordinance being passed, and 2021-16?
Yes, sir.
To qualify for a waiver, MXD would have had to provide 3 acres per 100 new individuals that the development proposed to introduce.
Thank you. Thank you for clarifying that, because I know there were some people that were unsure that was the case. So when MXD was brought in 2020, my aunt was a part of it. Our now mayor was a council member and a part of it. And it was another tool in the toolbox that was going to be used if the community needed it. We are now trying to fit a square peg into a round hole. We are 90 acres short on open space. I'm probably one of the biggest proponents for open space with the way that, I'm interacting with the youth sports community. And, to bring any development in that has a residential component that can build without any type of strict guidelines regarding open space and to actually build as if we are not in a deficit at all is not only irresponsible, but it's wrong. The ordinance should never pass to begin with. That ordinance was passed for one specific property, and therefore, this is going to right that wrong. It was then gone through the process of the Planning Commission, received a favorable 4-1 vote, and then returned to us to then do what is right for our community. I will not let the fear of litigation do what is right for this community. It will not scare me from doing what is right for our town and doing what is right for our citizens, which is who we were elected to represent. So any other comments at all?
One more, or two more, Council President, sorry. Regarding the ordinance itself, these are my own personal opinions. With the passage, or if this passage, I believe it can tidy up the process, the approval process of any plans moving forward also. As it was stated earlier, we've been two years in this, back and forth. If we had done it properly, as I believe I suggested several years ago, wait a month, we would have been farther along. This tidies up the process, in my view, that anybody bringing a plan, we're not far enough along where plans cannot be changed. We know what it is. They will know what it is. They're not going to present a plan and have to change it later, change it further down the line if we don't like it. It's kind of limits the back and forth on, in my view, of the open space that a property would have to relate to or work to. Because right now it's 10%. People keep coming and saying, oh, it needs to be the 3 per 100, it needs to meet this. So it should be, it tidies up the process in mind and can help speed any approval of a plan forward. Also, I think this also keeps everything the same related to residential development in town. Everybody knows what they have to plan for, no matter what the zoning is. Also, say if this stays in effect moving forward, well, for this property, or any property that's under consideration now, once that's done, we'll change it, then a developer can come in and say, well, you're being unfair to me because the same development got a fairer shake for the open space than us. So it keeps, currently, everybody will be playing by the same rules. Currently and farther down the road, instead of us having to, be accused later, or the council or the town being accused later, well, you gave a sweetheart deal to one developer, but you're not going to give it to me coming in, developing 250, 290 acres in town. So that's it, Mr. President. Thank you.
Mayor?
Thank you. So if this ordinance were to pass, and had it passed prior to Green Tree, could Green Tree have been approved? Is one question that I have. And I think the answer is no. I think because we're in a deficit of open space. Do you have an opinion on that, Tom, or do you?
Well, from memory, I thought that Green Tree did provide
Yeah.
3 acres
per
100,
100.
and hence did qualify.
Okay, all right.
And still does and would.
That's good. My memory, it just failed me a little bit. So to articulate exactly what this ordinance does is, once this ordinance passes, and provided it doesn't get vetoed if it does pass, then can you articulate to the citizens exactly what that means? I think I know what it means, but I just want to hear it straight out. It means that this development is going to have to meet that 3 acres per 100 people. True statement?
Are you asking me or are you asking our?
I'm asking you, Tim.
Yeah, so yes, this development and any other development in the future would have to meet, if it contains a residential component,
Yeah.
would have to meet a 3 acres per 100, only while we are in a deficit.
Only while we're in a deficit.
Correct. Now, let's remember that 3 acres per 100 does not bring us out of a deficit. It just ensures that we don't continue to add to our already 88 acre shortage that we have now.
Okay.
And I will also say that this does not mean that MXD cannot work. It is up to the developer to find their happy point between commercial and residential. You have a 75-25 either way. This is not preventing anyone from building, period. It's not. They can build more commercial, less residential, and therefore have a less open space requirement based on this. What this is doing is protecting our APFO, and that's what I ran on, and that's what I'm doing.
Okay. Thank you for
May
articulating.
I add a comment?
Sure.
So I think, this is my understanding, I think just to piggyback on that, to me what it means is, yes, now anyone is still required to submit an application for an open space waiver under the waiver ordinance. What this is doing is saying, when you submit your application for an open space waiver, the minimum amount that you must provide is 3 people per 100 acres.
3 acres per 100.
3 per 100 people to qualify. That now gets you in the door for consideration of a waiver. So they still have to go through a waiver process. It's a higher bar.
Correct. So yeah, anytime we're in a deficit, regardless of residential, you're always going to have to go through the waiver. Any type of R7, any other type of residential component requires a 3 by 100. 2021-16 made it to where MXD only needed a 10%, which is a far less bar to meet. While MXD does have a mixed-use, community, commercial type feel, it does have a residential component into it. And if it does have a residential component in it, it should follow the 3x100 APFO like every other residential ordinance or zone in our books. Any other discussion at all? Hearing none, we have a motion, we have a second, we will go to a vote. All in favor of adopting ordinance number 2023-30, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
4-1, thank you. Moving on to ordinance 2023-32, ordinance amending MXD provisions related to open space. Planning Commission, I believe, is requesting a 90-day extension. Mr. Butts, do you want to speak on that at all, or?
I think you said.
You don't need to.
You caught him off guard there, Council President. You caught me off guard, too.
I mean, is there any specific reason why we're asked, feel free, you don't need to, but if you wanted to explain, you're more than welcome.
Put the vice chair on the spot, right, Bill?
Yeah, with Bill's permission, just real quick.
Sorry to put you on the spot.
Not at all. We did deliberate on this at the last commission meeting. We could not reach a motion on it because we deemed that it was worthy of further adjacent jurisdictions' treatment of MXD open space, just to get a sense of what our bordering counties and towns say with regard to this particular percentage. So it's simply a fact-finding in order to establish some kind of close to apples comparison with what other jurisdictions are doing this. It doesn't say that there's any favor or disfavor toward the proposed amendment. It's simply on the basis of just trying to find further research on that. With that, in order for us to continue deliberating on it in the September commission meeting on September 25th, it will have expired, I believe, on September 12th, if I'm not mistaken, tomorrow. And so for us to carry it on into the end of this month's commission meeting, we simply need an extension in order to deliberate on it. Otherwise, it dies and it doesn't get added to our commission agenda. Simple as that.
Okay, all right, thank you.
I'm fine with the extension. I would just rather have it switched down to a 60-day extension on this instead of the 90, because I believe they have worked towards the chart that they were working on. They should be able to handle it at the September meeting. The only reason why I'm not really asking for a 30-day to get it through to September is just in case for some reason they can't make it for September. At 60 days is a little bit better. It clears up it clears up the concern with it. It helps out with the upcoming plan. I want to say the public hearing they're holding helps everybody know what they're doing. Also, I would request that this ordinance, if passes or if it comes out of the Planning Commission, with a recommendation to be tentatively set for the October meeting for a public hearing on it. I believe that's what I was.
Okay, so we're looking at, so we have a table amendment.
Table amendment, yes, sorry, I wasn't sure if we made there was no second or amendment or bringing it forward, so I just want to make sure.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, table amendment,
So
yes.
so what we're looking at now is your request, instead of a 90-day extension.
Do a table
we're gonna
amendment
go
for
to
60 days.
Table to 60, but if it comes back from the Planning Commission September meeting, we want to schedule an open hearing for the October meeting.
Yes, the October council meeting, I believe.
To do that, we would need to advertise, have 15 days public. So I guess my question before we go through with that, I don't want to waste money on advertising. So Mr. Breeding, Mr. Gent, Mr. Butts, do you fairly confident that we will have this at the top of the agenda for the Planning Commission and get through it to where we can plan an open hearing in October?
Yeah, I mean, it's tentatively right now scheduled on the agenda, but as Holly has something to say.
I think
There wouldn't be enough time for advertising.
I was wondering
The
about
public
that
hearing
today.
For October, it could only be in November if you're going to do that.
Okay.
I have a comment as
I
well.
was wondering about that earlier.
I didn't want to spend the money advertising if it was not going to come back from the Planning Commission. Okay. So we're still good, I think, with a 60-day extension.
Yeah, you mentioned in some side conversations about the advertising stuff, and then thinking about the time constraint between the planning commission and the next, I was wondering about that too. But I'm glad Holly cleared that up for it.
Yeah. Council President, comment whenever you're.
Yeah, I just want to say, I don't see why not allow the 90 days, just in case for some reason we can't get to it and finish it at the September meeting. I hate to then have to come back in October and they ask for another 30 days, 60 days, 90 days. To me, I don't think it's that big a deal. Like, why don't we just give them the 90 days, which they're allowed to ask for? That's just my opinion.
Comment. So I concur with John Breeding because I was at that last planning commission meeting. We talked about the cannabis ordinance, and I'm pretty certain I heard the planning commission members say that ordinance has to be the priority for the next planning commission meeting. So that's what I heard. So I think you need to address the cannabis ordinance, work through that, and then address other ordinances. That's what I heard two commission members say at the last planning commission. And I believe the chair and co-chair acknowledged that. So long way of saying, I think you ought to stick with the 90 days. I don't think you're going to get it all done at the next meeting.
I just want one quick comment. Councilmember Munder, I don't know, maybe if I missed that, I was taking notes. Why did you want to go down to a 60 as opposed to a 90? Because what I'm hearing is, it sounds like they need the 90, and there's no reason not to give them, other than we might have to come back and give them another 30.
No, well, they have since the last meeting, and first off, the commission can change the agenda and put what they want first and change their mind after they say something. So let's clarify that. Second, the 60-day just is a little bit quicker instead of holding it out there for, potential up to 3 months, which is basically the first part of the year, particularly with the, I want to say the upcoming public hearing at the end of October for the Mount Airy Crossing project. This also clarifies then the developer can really know what to do, how to feel, and how to come at the hearing or moving forward with any plans they might have to resubmit, instead of keep coming and saying, well, we don't know how to draw it, we don't know how to design it, you're holding up our design with the ordinance hanging out there. They have also, as the vice chair commented, that they have worked on a chart, they have looked at surrounding jurisdictions in relation to what they use for open space. So I'm fairly confident with the work that the commission members have done, they should be able to pretty much look at it and take care of it at the September commission meeting. And then the 60 days, as I said earlier, indicated that if 60 days still allows for a time, if they, for some reason, can't finish up at the September meeting for it. It kind of not holds their feet to the fire of the commission, but it kind of makes them make sure that they can get it done, basically, instead of, okay, well, we got another 30 days to stretch it out to, say, November, December, then everybody's at the first part of the year again. So that's why the 60.
I do want to mention that the public hearings are at the end of September, not the end of October.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. Sorry, John.
27th and 30th. So
thank you.
It's your decision.
Yeah, thank you.
I think your 90 days is good. Sorry to break in, Council President, but the 90 days, I understand where you're coming from, but just given the 90 days, and if they're done in 60, great.
Okay, well, I'll withdraw the table motion then. Just leave it at the
All right.
90.
Okay, so we're going to motion for a 90-day extension request for the Planning Commission for ordinance number 2023-32 for basically the zoning of MXD. Do we have a motion on the table?
Second.
Or a second, I'm sorry.
I'll second.
All right. Any further discussion? Sorry, I got lost there for a minute.
No problem.
Any further discussion? All in favor of granting a 90-day extension for the Planning Commission, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Next up is ordinance 2023-40 to impose a 75,000 GPD yield requirement on water wells for acceptance by the town. This is up for introduction. I will make a motion to introduce 2023-40. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, hearing a second. Tom, this will come back to us next month, correct? This does not go to Planning Commission.
Ordinance. Correct. Yep.
Okay, so we'll see this again next month for adoption. All right, nothing else under unfinished business. At this time, the council will now move into a closed session under statutory authority to close session general provisions Article 3-305B, subset 3, to consider the acquisition of real property for a public purpose and matters directly related thereto. The subject is land acquisition. At the conclusion of this closed session, this council meeting will be adjourned. We will now roll call into closed session. Councilmember Evans.
Aye.
Councilmember Munder.
Aye.
Council Secretary Galletti.
Aye.
Councilmember Demoter.
Aye.
I'm an aye as well. Thank you very much.